Good morning, everybody. Can I just check that you can actually hear me? It's really great to be here. Actually, I did introduce this conference a few years ago, and at that time I was really anxious about getting the definition of recovery right, and I was worrying about how we would find the right words to get a shared understanding of what recovery means. I'm pleased to tell you I've moved on from that now. I'm not anxious about that. It's not to say I'm not anxious about standing up in front of you, but I'm not so anxious about trying to define what recovery is. What I'm more interested in now is finding practical solutions and ways for people to get a satisfactory and satisfying life. I will just tell you a little bit about Rethink Mental Illness in case there are people who don't know who we are. We are a third sector organisation. We're a charity. We've been going for over 40 years. We started out as the National Schizophrenia Fellowship with a letter to the Times newspaper by a guy whose daughter had schizophrenia and was really reaching out to see if anyone else out there was experiencing the same problems that his family were experiencing in terms of a lack of resources and a lack of understanding and a lot of stigma and discrimination. And it turned out that there were lots of people, and the first NSF group grew up out of that, and then lots of other groups came along, and the NSF became a campaigning charity, campaigned for better services, and then became a provider of those services. We're now called Rethink Mental Illness because that's what we want you to do. We want you to rethink the way you view mental illness, and we've retained our campaigning element. We still have those groups, which are peer support groups up and down the country, and we also provide about 230 services. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is what we've been up to in terms of recovery in our organisation. And also a little bit about what I've been up to, because I've come to realise that recovery is a very personal thing. So I thought I'd just give you a flavour of some of the different aspects of work that we've been doing around recovery. One of the things that we're quite proud of is that we have introduced a core competency into our knowledge and skills framework, which is around inspiring hope and recovery. I know that doesn't sound very earth-shattering, but it was actually quite significant because it's aimed at all our staff, not just frontline staff, not just staff who are dealing directly in the field, but our backroom staff and our management accountants and our HR people. And we use this competency when we're recruiting people and also in appraisals. So we've tried really to make sure that recovery is at the heart of what we're doing. Another thing that we've done quite recently that you might be aware of is we've published a report with the LSE called Investing in Recovery. And that really makes the case for recovery interventions, not only because we think that they are the right thing to be doing, but also because they can help to save money, which is something that's of interest to many people in this country at the moment. And our report talks about things like early intervention and peer support and crisis houses having a recovery-focused approach and being effective ways of delivering recovery. Talking of recovery houses, crisis houses, we've opened a few more recovery houses across the country, and we now run 8. There's just some pictures of them there, and you can see that they are just ordinary houses in ordinary streets, and the idea is that people can go there when they are in crisis, or perhaps when they're coming out of hospital, as an alternative to inappropriate hospital admission. I really love the concept of recovery houses. I wish that there could be recovery houses in every part of the country, because I do feel that they can offer a really valuable alternative to people to having to go into an inpatient ward. A key part of recovery is finding out what people think about services and trying to improve them on the basis of that, rather than just doing services to people. So for the last 3 years, we've been using a survey tool to ask people what they think about our services. And we've used that, the results of that to try and improve our services and to make them more recovery focused. Bit of a chance for me to have a small show off now. I'm very pleased to be able to tell you that 99% of the people using our services felt that they were actively listened to by staff, which is obviously a key part of recovery. So we're very pleased about that. Something that I'm going to show you warts and all now though, so something that we're not so proud of is that only 79% of people that we surveyed felt that they'd taken an active role to influence how the service is run. So 21% disagreed or even strongly disagreed with that. So that's something that we've been working on to try and improve opportunities for genuine involvement, not just a sort of a tick box type thing, but really trying to see how people using services can get more involved in running them, influencing their design and having a proper say in what happens in them. And one of the outcomes of that is that we've got more involved in co-production. So where people using services and people commissioning services come together in an equal relationship to make decisions that will affect how the services are run. We've got an example here of something called the MIC project, which stands for Mental Health in Co-Production. And this is something that we're running in West London with a number of champions from different organisations who come together to represent the views of people who are perhaps not always heard from, so that they can then express their views and commissioners can take those into account. And we have had quite a lot of impact really in terms of how commissioners are taking on board the views of people who are going to be using services and really listening to them. We've even created a recovery calendar. Some people using our services in Dorset made a lovely calendar for us this year using their own photos, which they've taken as part of a peer support group, a photography group, using their own tips for recovery. So you might think, well, yeah, Rethink Mental Illness have got it cracked. They really know what they're talking about. They're really living and breathing recovery. You might even think we're a bit smug about it. And I did think that we were getting a bit smug and perhaps a bit complacent about where we were with recovery. I think it's very easy to use recovery as, you know, the latest buzzword or the in thing or whatever, and to say, oh yes, we work in a recovery-focused way. But it's quite easy for that to slip. And I think it's really important that we keep revisiting it and reminding ourselves what recovery really means, that it's not just a static thing, and trying to sort of go with it and develop with it. I felt that we had reached that point in our organisation where we really needed to revisit recovery. So we made it the topic of our recent leadership conference, and we all got together to talk about, well, where are we with recovery? Yes, we've got all these great examples, but are we really, really doing it? We heard from people with lived experience. We heard lots of different recovery stories, because I do think that is a really important thing for us to keep doing, to hear lots of different recovery stories. Everybody's stories are obviously different. So I'm very pleased that we'll be hearing from Terry Bowyer shortly about his own recovery story. And the thing for me at our leadership conference was that everyone wanted to get involved and was talking about the importance of engagement and the quality of relationships. Even our financial controller started to talk about how he could get involved in recovery, and I thought that was significant, really. So as a result of that, we've decided that we're going to create a recovery forum, and we are now collecting ideas for how to have a more recovery-focused workforce and a more recovery-focused organisation. So that's where we are as an organisation. I said I'd tell you about me personally. What I decided to do was to collect people's ideas and tips for what works for them in terms of their own well-being and their own recovery. So I've been trying to do that, and it's really interesting. I even joined Twitter to try and do that. But I have to say that hasn't been a a massive success and has rather horrified my children. But, you know, I have to try and be out there and understand what's going on. So really my message to you today is that it doesn't do to be complacent about recovery. We really needed to give ourselves a good kick up the proverbial to reboot our focus on recovery, and I'm hoping that that's what you can use this conference to do, so that you can refresh and reboot your own commitment to recovery. So thank you very much.